Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something pretty fundamental, actually. What does it really mean to be blessed? Where do we actually find real happiness?
Yeah, it's a huge question. And the sources we're looking at today, readings from Matthew's Gospel, Revelation, some Psalms, they give this, kind of radical answer. It really flips our usual ideas about success completely upside down.
Absolutely. I mean, normally you think happiness is about comfort, right? Getting what you want, having an easy life. But the whole point of this deep dive, our mission today, is to unpack this paradox these texts present. They seem to define, ultimate happiness through things like struggle, humility, even mourning.
It seems totally backwards at first glance.
Right. So we need to figure out why. Why are these tough things presented as the path? And who are the people who actually, get this reward in the end?
And we've got some great material to work with. We're diving into the Beatitudes from Matthew 5, Psalm 24 and 1 John 3 for identity, and then that incredible vision in Revelation 7. It's quite a mix.
It really is. Okay, let's jump in. All right, so let's set the scene. Jesus goes up the mountain, the crowds gather, the disciples are there, and he starts teaching. This isn't just like friendly advice.
No. Definitely not. This is foundational stuff for the kingdom he's talking about. It's like he's redesigning virtue from the ground up.
Yeah, redesigning is a good word for it. Because the people he calls blessed, the truly happy ones, it's all about their internal state, isn't it? Not their status or possessions.
Exactly. We usually think of blessings as things we get, wealth, health, good fortune. But this teaching, it asks us to cultivate qualities that almost feel like, lacks. Weaknesses, maybe.
Let's just run through the main list, because hearing them one after another really highlights how jarring they are.
Okay, yeah. So first up, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven.
Poor in spirit, that's not just about being broke, is it?
No, not primarily. It's more about recognizing your complete dependence on God. It's rejecting that sort of pull yourself up by your bootstraps, self-sufficient attitude. It's knowing you need grace. That's the starting point, really.
Okay, dependence. Which then leads straight into maybe the hardest one for a lot of us. Blessed are they who mourn, for they will be comforted. How is grief a blessing?
Well, it connects back to being poor in spirit, doesn't it? Mourning here means acknowledging that things are broken. Loss is real. The world isn't perfect. When you face that brokenness instead of pretending it isn't there,
you're actually open to the comfort, to the kingdom where things are made right.
Exactly. You see the need for healing, for restoration. That very awareness is part of the blessing.
And it keeps challenging our instincts, like, blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the land. Meekness isn't exactly a power trait in our world.
Not at all. And then blessed are they who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be satisfied. That's a deep longing for justice, for things to be set right, not just passively wishing, but actively yearning for it.
Okay, so those are kind of internal states or longings. Then it shifts more towards action.
Yeah, the virtues that shape how we interact with others. Mercy, purity, making peace. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. That's pretty direct.
Cause and effect. And blessed are the clean of heart, for they will see God. That connection between inner purity and divine insight is powerful.
Definitely. It's about integrity, single-minded focus on God, not being pulled in a million directions by selfish desires or, worldly stuff.
So looking back at the source reflections we had, the argument was that these Beatitudes just completely redefine what success looks like. It's not about dodging problems.
Right. True happiness, true blessing comes from committing to these qualities: humility, mercy, purity, because they align you with God's grace. You don't need the world's approval anymore.
Which brings us to the final one, the absolute toughest test, maybe. The one that really clashes with our desire for comfort and acceptance.
Oh, yes, the blessing for being persecuted.
Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, and then insulted, lied about, all because they're following this path. Why is that a blessing?
It's the ultimate confirmation, isn't it?
Confirmation of what?
That you're actually living it. If you're facing opposition because you're striving for righteousness, for meekness, for peace, it means you've chosen a path the world doesn't understand or accept.
So the persecution itself is evidence you're doing something right according to this value system.
Precisely. It's why Jesus says, rejoice and be glad. Don't just endure it, celebrate it, because it shows your values are aligned with the kingdom, and your reward, as he says, will be great in heaven. It turns the suffering itself into, a source of joy and assurance.
Wow. Okay. That reframes suffering completely. All right. So we've mapped out the path, this radical call to humility, mercy, even embracing persecution. So the next logical question is, who can actually do this? What kind of character does it take?
Yeah, who qualifies for this? And we get a really direct answer, or at least a challenging question from Psalm 24. It asks, point blank, who can ascend the mountain of the Lord, or who may stand in his holy place?
Sets the bar pretty high, doesn't it?
It does. The standard is clear.
And the answer given is, well, it sounds almost impossible. One whose hands are sinless, whose heart is clean, who desires not what is vain. Sinless hands, a clean heart. That sounds tough.
It does sound daunting, for sure. But maybe we shouldn't think of sinless hands as like absolute perfection from birth. Think about it in terms of integrity in what you do.
Okay, so ethical actions, honesty in your dealings.
Exactly. And a clean heart. Maybe that's about intention. A heart that's genuinely focused on God's ways, not constantly chasing empty status symbols or, getting caught up in envy or pride. Desires not what is vain. It's about focus and integrity.
So it's describing a certain kind of person, a character. The song calls them the generation, the race that seeks God's face.
Right. Seeking God. And that pursuit, that identity, ties straight into what we see in 1 John chapter 3. It's incredibly powerful.
That's the part that says, see what love the Father has bestowed on us that we may be called the children of God. That's huge. That's the core identity, isn't it?
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
And notice the dynamic there. John says, we are God's children now. That's a present reality.
Okay.
But then he adds, what we shall be has not yet been revealed. There's this future element, this mystery. We know the destination involves seeing God as he is and becoming like him.
So this future promise, this hope of ultimate transformation, that's what fuels the present.
Precisely. That's the engine for change right now. The text says, everyone who has this hope based on him makes himself pure as he is pure.
So the desire to be ready for that future encounter, to see God clearly, motivates the pursuit of purity today.
Exactly. Purity isn't just some abstract moral goal. It's the practical, logical response to knowing who you are a child of God and who you hope to see. It connects back to the clean heart needed to ascend the mountain in the psalm. It's required for the journey and the destination.
That makes sense. But still, living up to that poor in spirit, clean heart, day after day, it sounds exhausting. It feels like a heavy burden.
It definitely can feel that way.
Yeah.
And that's why that other verse, the one often cited as the Alleluia verse with these readings, is so important.
You mean, come to me, all you who labor and are burdened, and I will give you rest.
Yes. It's this beautiful, explicit invitation. It acknowledges the struggle. It says, if you're finding this path hard, if you feel weighed down trying to live this blessed life, come. There's help. There's rest available. It's not about achieving perfection on your own strength.
That's a crucial piece of the puzzle. It's demanding, but there's grace.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we have the path described in the Beatitudes, the character needed from the Psalms in 1 John. So where does Revelation 7 fit in?
Revelation 7 gives us this incredible, almost cinematic vision of the final reward. It's the payoff, you could say, for enduring the journey, for surviving what it calls the great distress.
It's a really dramatic scene, isn't it? Very visual. John sees angels first, right? Marking God's servants.
Yes, they're sealing the servants of God on their foreheads before judgment comes. And he hears a number for those sealed.
144,000. That number always stands out.
It does. It's specified as being drawn from every tribe of the children of Israel. It sounds very specific, maybe symbolic of the faithful remnant, or perhaps representing a kind of perfect completeness, a defined group saved out of Israel.
But then the vision shifts dramatically, doesn't it?
It really does. After hearing this specific number, 144,000, John sees something else entirely. He sees a great multitude which no one could count.
From specific to uncountable, from one background to everywhere.
Exactly. The scope just explodes. This uncountable crowd comes from every nation, race, people, and tongue. It moves way beyond any single ethnic group. It's universal.
And what are they doing? What do they look like?
They're standing before the throne of God and before the Lamb, Jesus. They're wearing white robes and holding palm branches.
Symbols of victory, purity.
Both, yeah. White robes signify purity, righteousness, maybe justification. Palm branches are classic symbols of triumph and celebration, like welcoming a king.
And then someone explains who these people are.
Right. One of the elders asks John if he knows who they are, and then explains, these are the ones who have survived the time of great distress. That connects directly back to the struggle, the persecution mentioned in the Beatitudes.
Okay, they came through the hard times and their robes.
This is the crucial part. The elder says they have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb.
So their purity, their victory, it comes through Jesus' sacrifice. It's not just their own effort.
Exactly. It ties everything together. Their endurance through distress, their striving for purity, like we saw in 1 John, it's all made effective and complete through the Lamb's sacrifice. That's how they stand before God, clean and victorious.
And the whole scene ends in this massive chorus of worship, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Angels, elders, the four living creatures, everyone falls down and worships, shouting, "Blessing and glory, wisdom and thanksgiving, honor, power, and might be to our God forever and ever. Amen." It's the ultimate affirmation that the path, the struggle, it all led to this incredible, glorious end.
Okay, let's try to pull all these threads together. We've got the Beatitudes describing a life
Of humility, dependence, seeking righteousness, showing mercy, even facing persecution.
Right, and then we see in Revelation this massive, uncountable crowd who've come through great distress.
And they're victorious, pure, worshiping God.
So the connection seems unavoidable, doesn't it? The kind of life laid out in the Beatitudes is precisely the path that gets you into that victorious crowd.
It is. The struggle isn't something separate from the reward. It's the process. It's the great distress they survived, the poverty of spirit, the mourning, the persecution. That's the refining fire. That's how, through grace, the robes get washed white.
So happiness isn't found by avoiding the tough stuff, but by embracing these specific qualities, the Beatitudes, which actually purify you and align you with God's kingdom. It demands, like you said earlier, a huge amount of trust.
It's completely counterintuitive to how the world usually operates.
Right.
The world says suffering is bad, avoid it. These texts say the suffering endured for the right reasons is actually part of the blessing itself. It is the path.
So if we accept that, if this is the map, what do we do with it? How does this apply to, just getting through the week?
Well, the sources really push for practical application. This isn't just theology to think about. It's a call to action. Right now, today.
So how do we translate that?
I think the challenge is to be intentional. Look at that list of Beatitudes again. Poor in spirit, merciful, meek, peacemaker, pure in heart. Which one makes you, personally, the most uncomfortable?
That's a good question. Maybe the one you resist the most is the one you need to lean into.
Maybe. Which one could you practice consciously, intentionally today? Maybe it's showing mercy when your instinct is to judge. Maybe it's actively trying to make peace in a small conflict instead of stirring the pot or just avoiding it.
Turning that abstract idea of a clean heart into a concrete action, like choosing integrity in a specific situation at work or home.
Exactly. It grounds it. And remember the foundation that makes any of this possible. That line from the Psalm.
Blessed are all who take refuge in the Lord.
Right. That's the starting point. Trusting in that refuge is what gives you the courage to even try living out these challenging virtues. The hope we talked about earlier, the identity as God's children. It all rests on taking refuge in Him first.
So the transformation, turning our burdens into these blessings, it all hinges on that trust, that refuge.
It really does. Hashtag, tag, tag, outro.
So we've really wrestled today with this tension, haven't we? How suffering, humility, and things the world sees as weaknesses can actually be transformed into blessings.
Yeah, blessings achieved through pursuing purity, holding on to hope, and living out these countercultural beatitudes.
And it all culminates in that promise of joining that uncountable universal crowd celebrating before God.
A powerful vision.
So here's maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to take away and maybe chew on. We heard from 1 John that we are God's children right now, right? But that full future reality, seeing God as He is and becoming like Him, that's still unfolding.
The ultimate hope.
And that hope is what drives the purification process now. So if the world tells you blessing is about what you gain, what you accumulate, what does this ultimate hope, the hope of seeing God face to face, maybe compel you to let go of? What might you need to shed or simplify in your life right now to cultivate that clean heart, ready for that encounter?
That's a challenging question, something definitely worth reflecting on.
Indeed, something to mull over until our next deep dive.